Good afternoon, listeners, and welcome again to the 3 Feet Radio Show. It's been ANZ Championship Grand Final time. It's been run and won, with the Central Pulse triumphing 43-31 over the Mainland Tactics. And joining me in the studio is my co-host, Luke Herbert. G'day, Luke.
G'day, Ben. And I watched the Grand Final on free-to-air TV, and while the margin wasn't particularly close, and I'm sure our current guest isn't going to be bothered by that, I've got to say, though, the Pulse are far by an outright deserved winners. And if I just speak briefly, I think they have a stronger side than the Steel they had that won a couple of titles a couple of years back. So, you know, they're very well positioned as a team, and for the rest of the rest of netball in New Zealand and the flow and effects of the Silver Ferns at international level, Ben.
I agree with that, Luke, and it's certainly a reflection of the improvement over the last couple of years, because for a period there, they were the laughing stock, but we'll talk about that another time. And joining us is ANZ Premiership winning defender from the Pulse in Karin Burger. Good afternoon, Karin.
Good day, everybody. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. First of all, back-to-back ANZ Premierships. Awesome achievement by not just yourself, but the team as well.
Yes, definitely. I think it's something we've been working towards for the last 4 years. So we've been lucky enough to stick together as a unit, majority of us over the last 4 years, and got that first win last year. So it's really good to know that we can back it up, and especially with our coach now leaving us to do some community work. I think it was a great send-off for her.
And we might as well just get this question out of the way, and it's unavoidable, but do you plan on joining the Pulse again next season?
I don't, contracting has started this week, so I think we've just been enjoying our final and our win. So the big discussions will start this week. So we'll see how many of us, and I think it's a tough one because we've got such a great caliber team together, and you could just imagine keeping all those high profile players together in one team could be a tough task. So we'll see what happens.
And you talk about a high caliber team, Karin. Your coach, Yvette McCausland-Jury, has been a main driver of improving that team culture and things like that. Obviously, you're going to miss her. She's been, like I said, a main architect in everything. And can you tell us a bit about her new role in the community that she's going to be doing as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think she's had quite a good influence on quite a few of our players. She's been in our lives for some of us, or most of us, for quite a few years. And she's played a big part in like you mentioned, with the culture that we have in our team, and our sponsors as well, having the kaupapa that they drive, that sort of just incorporated in the way we do things, have really driven our success. And I think Yvette is quite a people person, and she's very much about the development of young players. Me playing under her for the last 6 years, or my development in New Zealand, has been, I think, a big part of the player that I am today. So I guess it's just her giving back to the community, going back to the grassroots, and looking at developing that young ones coming through. So really exciting times to see the young ones that she then pushes up to higher honours as well.
And just moving back to the games you've played this season, particularly the Grand Final is noticeable, but how different or strange was it to play in front of a very small crowd or no crowd at all?
Yeah, I think we were just all really excited to have that final in the first place. We had quite a bit of support because we were allowed to have at least a small crowd down there. So we did have quite a few of our family and friends that travelled down to support us, and regardless of their size, they were very vocal. So it was amazing having them there. I think it was good that we were able to actually hear each other on court for a change. So that really helped with the communication. So I don't think the size of the crowd really affected our game or the outcome, but it was really amazing having that support regardless.
And just on the game too, Karin, how important was it to get such a strong start like you did? Because you certainly flew out of the box quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last couple of times we've played them, we weren't at our best. So we really had to go back and work on those 1% of things that we needed to fix, and knowing that they'll come out guns blazing. We really felt that if we had a really good start, then it's all just about holding on to that lead. So that's why we went out there wanting to prove that, just, stamp that mark in the first place, and then the rest of the game will just be maintaining it.
Sorry if this comes across as picky, but just purely as someone who's curious, when you say maintaining a lead, and for the sake of like the sports fans out there who aren't on court experiencing that, how is that different from when teams make the mistake of sitting on the lead and they let the opposition back into the game, which you guys did not do that? You know, it's self-evident by the result, but I'm just quite curious here on what you've said.
Yeah, no, that very, very valid question. I think for us, it's about how our defenders and our attackers approach stuff. So usually if we're down, we'll be very more clinical about how we score our goals and, making sure that every single ball counts. Whereas when you're up, you do have the luxury of being able to play a little bit, I guess you can say, fancy netball, or, take some chances and push each other. So, I think there's an element of being able to experiment and push each other when you're up in a game rather than when you're down and you're having to make sure that every single ball counts. I think when you're down, it's not necessarily pretty netball because you're just trying to get the ball down to the other side of the court. Whereas when you're up, you can afford to be a little bit, a bit more interesting with your passes.
You spoke of about Yvette's new roles going to do with talent ID and that kind of thing, and obviously the Beco League is a very important pillar. It has been for a few years now in the player pathway there in New Zealand. How important do you feel the Beco League is to make that step up to the next level? Because you certainly are a product of the Beco League.
Yeah, personally, experiencing it in our region, I think there's a very big incorporation of the Beco transition into the Pulse. And it really just prepares those young athletes who have been working really hard, giving them the sense of what it would feel like if they were to sign up with the Pulse, incorporating them into some of our trainings and even some of them traveling with us to games as that 11th player. So I think it really gives them an idea of what it would look like and the amount of effort and work that is required to play at that level. And for me personally, being involved in that in 2016 and then being signed in 2017, it was a very big step, and it gave me a clear indication of what I needed to do and what areas I was lacking in and what I needed to improve on to be able to get signed.
If I was just speaking of someone that follows the Beco League, one good thing that's happened the last couple of seasons is the teams have got names. So Southern Blast is awfully fitting for the weather we have down here. They couldn't have picked a better name. But just moving along from that little side note, this question, Ben and I were chucking around this off air, because so much of the landscape is dominated by uncertainty around COVID, whether it be netball or just about anything. So what is your take on how COVID's affecting what would normally be the international schedule for the season?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time, and we just need to acknowledge that, everybody's going through the same thing. It's not just us. And I think as a sport, we're quite lucky to be able to be in the position that we're in. So we're fortunate enough to be able to have that chance or the talk that we can actually have a season. So it's going to be tricky. And I mean, we don't have a confirmed calendar yet. And we know there's a lot of water that needs to go under the bridge and a lot of people that need to be involved in those tough conversations and trying to make it work. But I think people are very willing to make it work. It's been a very, very long season for us, and I think the players will really enjoy a little bit of downtime over the next month before we start preparing for the international season, whatever that might look like. But I think even during COVID times, we had to train regardless of what we knew was going to happen. So we just needed to make sure that we're in the best state that we could be if there was a competition, and which in the end there were. So it's all we can do at the moment as well. We're lucky enough to be able to do this for a living and be able to do something that we love. So it's part of the job. We just need to stay fit and healthy and be able to play whenever that opportunity arises.
You talk about you have about a month off. Have you got like a Zoom call teed up to speak as an extended squad with Silver Ferns soon? Because that was only announced earlier this week. But obviously, there's many girls that wouldn't have played finals, so it'll be a good opportunity for you to see them, and even if it's just done via video, to have a chat and all, looking ahead to everything.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have that time outside of netball, and I think that is usually after a big season, that's what they try and do. They give players that downtime to do your stuff outside of netball. So you're more than, I think, like with some of our girls, we do live in the same area. So if we do need to do training, and there's no scheduled training with any trainer or gym, so it's really up to us as players that if we want to stay fit, we do it together. So in terms of that, we do stay connected, but across the region, or I mean New Zealand, we really only do your own thing and have your own bit of own time really, and spend time with family and friends and break away before we have to get back into that strong international season coming up.
And this follow-up question is a bit speculative, but again, Ben and I were throwing ideas around off there just to get, try and factor in COVID. Otherwise, if we didn't do that, we'd have absolutely no questions to ask. This would be the shortest interview on record because there's so much up in the air. But just taking up your point of having the time, the downtime that every player or person, regardless of the profession, needs. And if we accept or assume for a moment that the Silver Ferns play internationals in November, does that not mean your downtime is essentially now? Because pre-season training for the ANZ Premiership then probably starts about after that. So you've kind of got everything rearranged out of order.
Yeah, definitely. I think and like so many other people, if you're in sport or not, everybody's had to adjust their years, so and their schedules. Same with us as well. Definitely our downtime is now. We get to have a bit of a break from the tough long season that we've had. I think we finished a month and a half later than we usually would have. So everything is really pushed out, and that also changes what our season would have looked like at the end of the year, what our holiday would have looked like, and also all the uncertainty about next year as well. So even though we do have an idea of what the calendar looks like, nothing is certain really. So we can only really do what we can do and stay positive and have the downtime that we can when we're allowed to have it, and then get back straight into it when we need to.
You talk about downtime. We often ask this question of anyone that comes on our show. What do you like to do in your downtime, Karin? Do you like to chill out, or do you still like to keep yourself fit by going for a run or going for a bike ride, or do you like to do something completely not related to fitness? Because that's your job anyway, fitness.
No, I know what it feels like when you go back into things and you haven't done any training. So I'll definitely try and stay on top of the fitness, but just try and make it more exciting and different to what you're used to, instead of, the usual shuttle running or court drill stuff, netball drill stuff, just being a bit more interesting, I guess, whether it's hill runs or stair runs or different kinds of sessions. So that's what I'll try and do. And then just on a personal side, I've got work and studies that I need to get on top of. So I guess I can focus on that kind of stuff completely and not have to worry about having to do some scheduled netball trainings.
But away from netball trainings, like what do you like to do? Like how do you like to pass your time when it's not netball, like now, for example?
I definitely get outside for starters.
Yep.
not indoors really, and we've got whether it's F45 classes or some friend doing some random boot camp class. It's just trying to stay fit and active, but not related to netball. I do think we like going for walks, stair runs and hill runs or even down at the beach really, having some Tabata sessions. So we try and keep it fresh and off the cuff really. We don't have anything scheduled, but do have an element of gym definitely in there. I don't think there's many things you can substitute a gym session for. I do like my gym sessions, so those usually stay a pretty standard for me.
Not to throw you under the bus, but do you have any drills you like to do that someone that's not necessarily an up-and-coming netballer, but they're starting to get a bit older, they're kind of beyond just shooting hoops or shooting at goal in our case in the backyard, and they're starting to train a bit more?
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good one. I feel like when you've got somebody to do stuff with you, it's always good. Like simple ball work, I feel like there's nothing that gets you ready for netball as much as actual netball training. So as much as I'm saying I'm having a break from netball training, when it gets closer to the time, I'll probably incorporate some ball work and skill work as well. I guess for me, it's the easiest netball drills that you're all used to, but just doing it at a higher intensity and more in a Tabata format. that really. And then I do like alternating it with a few shuttles or sprints just to break it up. So that is probably my go-to usually, doing an alternating between shuttle running and some drills. And it's always good having a partner with you when you're doing some ball drills in there as well to keep your ball handling skills up to date. So yeah, that would be my go-to if I don't go for stairs or hill runs.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us today, Karin. Much appreciated. And congratulations again on your ANZ Premiership success at the weekend. And hopefully you'll be able to get out there in the black dress sooner rather than later once this COVID thing goes away. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
That's all right. Thanks.